Okay, in this second video of the series, I'm going to take a painted texture and put it into repeat. So I've already cropped the image. Now I'm going to adjust the threshold. I'm doing that because I want it to be black and white, trying to mimic the artwork I would use for a silk screen. So you can slide this if you want to change the density, but it looks like the middle was fine, so I'm going to leave it alone. So I've adjusted the threshold, and now I'm going to start putting it into repeat, a straight repeat. So I'm going to select all, do new layer via cut. Now I have two layers. I'm going to change the canvas size to 200%. Just a reminder that this scale of this is wildly enlarged because it was a photograph, so I am going to be scaling it down before I use it. Two layers here. The artwork is at the top so that I can just copy and drag this down. I'm using the move tool here, and I'm going to use the option key on my keyboard to make that double arrow, click and drag to duplicate it. I'm making sure that it's lining up against the left-hand side, and now I'm going to overlap it just enough so that I can erase some of this information and have a pretty convincing repeat. So in the other video, I talked a lot about erasing versus using the lasso and using the right setting on the eraser to make sure I'm not creating like a new texture that will show off the repeat. So I feel like using this small pen with the hard eraser is fine. And again, just to remind you, you can change the opacity of that layer if you're wondering what you're erasing to. So it's fine. I'm going to take it off though because I find it a little distracting if I don't need it. So I feel like just by moving the eraser in the kind of rhythm that the texture is, I can hide the join. And the join is everything in a repeat, because if you show the join, then you show where the unit begins and ends. So it looks pretty good. All right, so I'm just going to use that as an okay version. You can also copy and paste areas to fix something. So I'm going to merge these two layers together, merge down from the top. So it's the artwork layer is here, and then the background. I'm going to use a lasso tool now to like select an area. So I'll pick this thing up here, and I'm going to do new layer via copy. This is just a way of patching an area that doesn't look quite right. So I'm going to rotate it so it fits here. Command T on my keyboard, just rotate using the corners and put it into position. And now I could erase, or I could use the selection tool to select the white and delete it. That way it's sort of falling on here. I am going to use the eraser tool to get rid of some of the information because I was really just worried about the end of that shape. But I would never try to draw that. I just copy and paste so that it's more convincing. So I'm going to merge those two together and then move forward with the repeat part. But I do think, there's patching this one to keep the spiral. Could be somewhat convincing. I just duplicated that and put that there so that I have like more of a continuous line. All right, so I'm going to merge these two down. Layer, merge down, or Command E on your keyboard. I'm going to crop the repeat now. So I bring the guide down to the first quarter of the image. It's very important so that I crop including the join that I fixed. Use the marquee tool to select the upper left-hand corner. New layer via copy so that I just have it floating here. That's my floating selection. I'm going to bring it down and pop it into place. Whoops, that was a mistake. I was trying to zoom. I'm going to bring it down and pop it into place so that I can see where the repeat should end, and put a guide at the top. All right, so now I can use either the crop tool or the marquee tool to crop it. I don't like using the crop tool for some reason. I tend to use the marquee and then say image crop. Now I'm going to clear my selection, Command D, and I'm going to clear my guides, clear guides. You'll notice I still have the 2 layers, so I can move this easily. I'm going to move canvas size, move the artwork to the left, make this 200%. Use the move tool and the option key to create a double arrow where I duplicate by just clicking and dragging. I'm going to overlap and I'm going to erase. So try and do this quickly. I'm using a smallish brush just because I don't want to make really obvious erasure marks. I'm trying to keep it to the same scale as the type of texture that was painted. That's doing pretty well. And I'm not going to be really picky about it, but I do want to remind you that you can, copy and paste to resolve things. You can also draw to resolve things depending on the artwork. Okay, so we're going to leave it at that. Merge these 2 layers together. Bring the guide into the first quarter of the artwork. Select the upper left-hand corner. New layer via copy. And then I'm going to move this over into position. I do like to zoom in to make sure I'm getting it in the right spot, so I don't end up with the little extra line that I don't need. Take this off, bring this in, throw out the floating selection, and then I'm going to zoom out so we can see the whole thing and crop it. So that was me putting a texture into a straight repeat. And again, if you look at the rulers, you'll see that's like quote unquote texture is 46 inches wide, which feels like a pattern, not a texture. So we're gonna be shrinking it down to fill into the other artwork, but I'm gonna stop here and start a 3rd video on filling texture into our high contrast post-it note pattern.